SPRANNE against the world. Thank you. Hey, it's Allie. Welcome back to my channel. And if you are new here, yes, I am always like this. Well, guys, I did it. I finally did it. I finally watched Amphibia from beginning to end, all the way through. And it only took me almost all of the summer. Yeah. But what can I say? This summer has been undeniably rough. And just having that show, it really got me through the summer. Even though the summer's not even over yet, it has been like #1 staple for me during this summer. I also waited a couple weeks after I finished the video to ruminate on my thoughts, collect them together, and do some research. That's right, I did research for this video. I've seen how like diehard the Amphibia fandom is, and especially because I think it's so underrated, this show, I wanted to do it justice. So I hope I can do that today with a actually comprehensive review, because if you saw my last video with TMNT, that was not comprehensive at all, but I just was too excited to talk about it. Here, I want it to be actually comprehensive because I want this to be a review that people actually watch and go, oh, I actually want to watch the show now, and not just me screaming and crying and throwing up about TMNT because I love them so much. The show, I want people to watch this and go, okay, I want to go watch the show now. So I hope I do it some justice that way. If at any time you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe, because I make videos like this all the time. And you know, for the algorithm, and also just to start a conversation, comment down below a cartoon that you guys like, that you think is like severely underrated and didn't get enough attention in its prime. I know like one a lot of people talk about is DuckTales. If y'all are into DuckTales, like the new reboot, let me know how it was, because I watched some of it. My dad, that's also how you know, my dad was watching that show when it was on Disney XD, so obviously it's good. So let me know down in the comments below if you really like that show, and if I should give it, I guess, a rewatch, because I just watched episodes here and there. Anyway, let's get into it. So if you were like me and you didn't know anything about this show until it was over, let me go ahead and give you the rundown. Amphibia is a show about a girl named Anne who's voiced by Brenda Song. That was like, right then and there I knew. I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be great. And she gets transported into this world called Amphibia when she gets peer pressured to steal a music box. There she is transported specifically to the town of Wartwood, where she gets taken in by the planners, who consist of Sprig, Polly, and Hop Pop, who is their grandpa. Oh, and did I mention that they were all frogs? Because they're all frogs, all of them, except for, of course, the toads and the newts and the ohms. I don't know. It's called Amphibia for a reason. Anyway, shenanigans ensue, with the plot getting deeper and deeper and more convoluted as time goes on. What can you say? It's a modern cartoon. Which actually brings me to my first point. This show had lore. I swear to God, Disney did not do a good enough job trying to like promote this show, because I had no idea that this show had lore. One of the main things that actually got me into like the Owl House was the fact that I knew that this show had like connecting lore and an overarching plot. No one, especially Disney in their commercials, made it anywhere clear that this show had any type of overarching plot. Like, not one time did I see that anywhere in their commercials. They did a horrible job of promoting this show. Also, the lore was like from the jump. Like, I remember in the first episode, like at the end of the episode, like it was like, oh, the music box, there's something there. And that was enough. Obviously, they don't get into it until like later on in the season, but that was enough for me to be like, oh, okay, like there's something here, there's lore here, and that like makes me hang on for like longer. Amphibia, episode 1, they just showed like there is an overarching plot. So even though like episode 1, people say that is the season with the most filler, I think that because they show in episode 1 that there is some type of deeper plot here, for me at least, it made me like be able to get through the filler. I also really liked the filler, but we'll get to that. But first, let's get into my experience actually watching the show. Here I am back at it again, watching 3 to 4 years worth of content in less than 3 months. One day we're gonna have to have the conversation about why binge watching isn't really great for TV shows. It's not, but that's another conversation for another day. For now, all you need to know is that despite the fact that I did burn my way through this show, I think I paced myself enough. Like, even that 2 to 3 month period was enough pacing for me where I felt like I really did get to know all of the characters. And I think that the filler really helps with that aspect. And if you skip the filler, then I just feel like you're not going to get enough of the characters, if that makes sense. Like, this is coming from a person who watches One Piece and who loves One Piece and has seen every single One Piece episode. In my opinion, no episode is skippable for specific reasons. Okay, because I think that every episode, even the filler, or as I just like to call it for Amphibia, the non-plot related episodes, add a lot to each character, which makes the ending especially hit a lot harder. Which, speaking of character development, let's talk about the Calamity Trio. We gotta talk about them. The Calamity Trio, for those of you who are watching this who haven't watched the show yet, is the three main girl characters. Yeah, the three main girl characters, human girl characters, which is Anne, Sasha, and Marcy. I especially love Anne's development because it hits so hard and really close to home. That scene in season 3 when she had that conversation with the principal in one of her past episodes. Oh, when they talked about what she wanted to be. Oh, it hit so hard. It hit so hard because she felt like everyone else around her was so much better than her, like Sasha and Marcy. They all had unique talents and unique set of skills that were so much in her way, she felt like they were so much better than her. And because of that, she was kind of just this follower. She didn't think too much. One of the biggest things in that episode that I loved a lot is that they sat there and told her, you don't want to do any hard thinking. And she even says, yeah, why would I do that? It's hard. I could just follow my friends and live a fun life. Why do I need to think for myself or anything like that? And that, and the fact that she was forced into a situation, aka going to Amphibia, where she was forced to come into her own. She was forced to grow up and she was forced to see her skills and her own talents and stuff like that. She was forced to do that for her own means of survival. Obviously, she was in a world where no one who knew who she was, where she couldn't just follow somebody. She had to find her own way home at first. And even when Sasha and Marcy come back into the picture, she is able to stand her ground really well, especially with Sasha multiple times, because she has grown so much. And I love that. I love in this show specifically that character development is permanent. She didn't just go through character development and then Sasha came back and everything was just back to normal. No, I loved that. In fact, the fact that when Sasha came around, she had to defend herself multiple times and tell Sasha straight up, no, I'm a different person now and I have grown and I don't want to be a part of this way of our relationship. I obviously still want to be friends with you, but I don't want this to be the way our relationship goes anymore. And I really, really like that. It was you could see the change. The change had consequences for her character development. And I really, really liked that. Speaking of Sasha, oh girl, I did not like her at first. I didn't, but not I didn't like her as in I hated her character, whatever. I didn't like her attitude. And I think it's because I both knew people like that who I didn't like. And also I used to be like that as well. Anyway, there are some aspects to her that I can definitely relate to on a personal level of just I'm always right because I am. And it's not me who needs to change. It's everyone else around me who needs to change because it's true. But no, I can relate to those aspects, but some of the other aspects, obviously her manipulation and stuff like that, it's just no, it's very obvious she cared for her friends, which is why her character development took the longest, and I like that. I like that her character development wasn't a straight line. You could argue with Anne, her character development was a straight line, but with Sasha, her character development was up and then down and then up and then down, and I really like that. I like that. It, especially because she had to change a part of herself that was toxic, but in a way that didn't change her core self and her core values. She still has her attitude, she still has her go-gettedness, she still has all of that, and I can relate to that. You can become a better person without changing your attitude, without changing who you are and your personality. And I really like that they kind of put an emphasis on that. They still kept her very feminine and very rash and brash is that even a word? Brash, whatever. They really kept her personality the same while still observing that she can change as a person and become a better person. You can do that without giving up your personality. And part of her person, her I guess aggressive, quote unquote, I don't like saying that, but I guess her more aggressive personality didn't have to change for her to just become a better person. And I really, really liked that because it's you have sometimes characters that have to do in a complete 180 and change everything about themselves in order to become nicer people. And I don't think you need to do that. And they showed really well with Sasha that you don't need to do that. But it's gonna take time. Like Sasha in the beginning was like, oh, okay, I'll change because I don't want to lose my friend. But then was like, nah, fuck it. I like the way that I am, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, obviously she had to permanently lose friends, those two toads whose name I forget, I'm sorry. She had to, like, permanently lose them as friends to see that, like, oh, my behavior is actually, like, wrong and needs to stop. And she had to get into a fight with Anne a couple of times to, like, realize, like, oh, okay, I don't want to lose my friend. And I love it so much. And when, like, and it shows even more in the episode where she clearly needed to be the leader of the, like, army or whatever, but Anne came back and everybody loves Anne, and so everyone was like, oh, Anne should be the leader because we all love her and she's a hero and blah blah blah. But it's very clear she doesn't have leadership skills, which, like, you know, that's okay. You don't need leadership skills all the time, you know. But but Sasha just gave the role to Anne anyway, even though it was very clear that, like, she can't do it. And even I love the fact that Anne even in the episode said that, like, I cannot do this, you need to do it. Like, you need to do it. Like, I'm not gonna be mad that you're the leader or, like, whatever. And Sasha was yielding because she didn't want to, like, lose Anne as a friend again or fall back into her old tendencies, which is just shows a lot of, like, her growth and how much she wants to cling on to that growth, even though the right decision in the end was for her to be leader. Permanent consequences. I love that in shows. Speaking of permanent consequences, Marcy. Oh, Marcy. I think Marcy is a crowd favorite for a reason. Like, every time, because when I was watching and I was doing research and watching other reviews of this show, everybody talked about, like, their favorite characters, and Marcy was one that popped up a lot in people's favorite characters. Rightly so. First of all, that girl is a woman of the people. She acts a lot like if the average person was sent into, the average person, if the average weeb, was sent into a magic fantasy land, that literally abides by the rules of a lot of different fantasy genres, D&D, all of that stuff. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about the ending now when they all had their powers and they all had, like, all of their powers correlated to their own hobbies, and they're all distinct hobbies. I love that a lot about, like, every single character was so distinct and had their own distinct hobbies, and I love that. Anyway, Marcy. Yeah, Marcy is, oh, baby girl. One of the criticisms I have for the show is that I wish we got more with Marcy's motivations. Like, obviously her motivations, like, oh, her parents were gonna move away, so she would have to move away, and she didn't want to leave her friends, and blah blah blah, and that led to literally everything happening. So I think I would have liked a little bit more, especially that episode where she was trapped in the core. It's the core, right? The core's, like, mindscape or whatever. I would have liked to see more of her like, kind of, like, backstory. Like, that episode started with her and her three friends back in the day watching a movie that she liked, but Anne and, like, Sasha fell asleep, and it was kind of like a bittersweet thing. Like, obviously she cares for her friends, but she really wanted to show her friends the things that she liked. I would have liked to see more of that personally, just to see, like, oh, she had to deal with that and how she dealt with that and why she learned what she learned, that, like, her friends don't like the same things that she do, but it's okay that they don't like the same things that she does. That's okay. Like, they can still be friends and stuff like that. I would have liked to see more of that. But overall, Marcy's character was tragic. Ooh, it hurt. Also, just in case you were wondering, like, what do you mean? There's a content warning. A content warning that literally says some images might be disturbing for younger viewers. And I feel like Amphibia needed to have that, because Amphibia, comparatively to, like, Gravity Falls or The Owl House, is a lot more of, like, it's a lot more of, like, a kiddie show in a way, which we'll get to, because I believe that to be one of the reasons why it was underrated. So I think it had to kind of put, like, some not so great stuff happens in this episode, y'all, and it has to do with Marcy. And again, no spoilers, but oh my god, One of the craziest episodes. I think that's a lot of people's favorite episodes, and it's definitely one of my favorites, but it's not my like top favorite. But that episode, especially that being the season finale, oh wow. But anyway, I think Marcy is one of the coolest characters in the show. I love her like what's the word, her intuitiveness of everything and the way she wants to just learn about the world and stuff like that. I think adding her, especially into season 2, really helped give explanation for lore. Like, it was a very seamless way to be like, here's the lore of the world, because Marcy wants to learn about it, and she's the type of person who would just like info dump you on like one of her favorite topics. So her info dumping about the world of Newtopia and Amphibia as a whole really gives the viewer like lore for the world without like, you know, if Anne were to sit there and say, did you know that Newtopia blah blah blah, we'd be like, huh? Like, as an audience member, we'd be like, huh? But the fact that Marcy is doing it because she is like a brainiac and loves like all that type of stuff, it makes sense. And it's seamless. Like, you don't even notice that you're getting info dumped exposition on the world of Newtopia until you really think about it, because she is such a seamless character to do that with. And I think more shows should do that. You should just have a character that cares way too much about the world that they're in, and therefore info dumps you a lot because that's how you get your lore across. I also really like the dichotomy between her and Anne, of like, Anne just, whenever something happens in the world, Anne is just like, oh, okay, that's a thing that happened. But like, when it happens to Marcy, Marcy's like, oh, that's a thing, just like that thing just happened, I want to know everything about it. And oh my god, the fact that they're able to make all 3 of the characters like so distinct but still have those like connecting threads that like you understand why they're best friends. Oh, it's so good. I think season 2 was the best season written wise, though I did like the season 3A and of course the finales of season 3B. I do agree that season 3B had too much like filler in it. Like, I feel like we could have replaced a lot of that filler with other types of episodes. Like I said, I would have liked to see more of the human girls like backstories of before Amphibia, and also like King Andrias, and not just young King Andrias because he was voiced by Zeno, but like also because I wanted to see more of what, you know, Amphibia was like back then, especially under the rule of Newtopia, before it, like, everybody obviously was pro Newtopia before like everything happened. So I would have liked to see how that came about. And like, even beforehand, like, people obviously, like, in the course of the show, the timeline of the show, people love Newtopia until obviously things go wrong. But I would have liked to see kind of how that reach kind of loses its grip over time, because it does, like, that authority loses its grip over time, and I would have liked to see like how exactly that happens. But also season 3 has the Christmas episode, which is my favorite episode. I am not usually the type of person to be like, I love Christmas episodes, because it's so clear a lot of the time they're just really cheesy and whatever. But this Christmas episode had me crying in the middle of July. I blame Rebecca Sugar, because I think it was really that song. And also Sprig, because Sprig, I love him so much. But I feel like those are the main reasons why that Christmas episode is my favorite episode. That song, I literally went to YouTube right after watching that, like the day after watching that episode, and just on repeat was listening to that song in the middle of July. Oh, it's one of my favorite Christmas songs now. And lastly, for this section, I want to talk about the planters. Do I even need to explain at this point? Found family. Come on now. If you've been here, you know. Found family is the quickest way for me to love your show. And oh my god, Sprig and Anne and Polly and Anne, and even Hop Hop and Anne. Hop Hop and Anne. First of all, the whole twist with Hop Hop and Anne. Again, consequences that are permanent consequences, and that teach kids, especially kids watching this show, that it's gonna take time for people to forgive other people, that it doesn't just happen within a day or within an episode. God, I loved it. That episode was so good. It's one of my favorite episodes. But like, just the dynamic between all of them are so different. Like the dynamic between Hop Hop and Polly, Hop Hop and Sprig, Hop Hop and Anne and Sprig, Anne and Polly, like, etc., etc. Like, it's just, even Polly and Sprig, like, I can go on and on, but like, their dynamics are so different, but then all together, like, they're family. And then also with Hop Hop, like, how him and Anne, like, I really forget sometimes that, like, him and Anne butted heads at the beginning of the show. Like, they really did not like each other at the beginning of the show for multiple reasons. Like, obviously Anne just wanted to be there. Like, I think it's played off in the beginning as like, oh, Anne with authority or with like old people or like whatever, but it's like more like, no, Hop Hop just doesn't trust Anne, and Anne does not know why, because Anne's obviously not trying to do anything bad, but like Hop Hop doesn't know that. He doesn't know who the fuck Anne is, and this person just randomly coming into their lives. Like, he wants to protect his family, obviously, and all the shit that has happened to his family. It is very obvious, like, the reasons why he wants to do that. And so you just see over time their development of their relationship together, and it's just, whew, your actions have consequences, Hop Hop. And I loved that they gave him those consequences, and he had to deal with it. I love that. Oh. So I know I skipped over a little bit of some things in terms of other side characters, but they're all great. All of the side characters are great. I love distinct side characters. I do. And I feel like all of the side characters were distinct enough that by the time we got to the last season and the last episode, I was bawling. I was fucking bawling in my chair at my office because I watched this at work. But on my lunch break, okay? I was watching it on my lunch break and I was bawling. I was really trying so hard not to cry because we have those office, like my little, it's not a cubicle. So it's like just a flat, like really long table with desk stations at them. And so obviously I have people around me. And so I'm trying not to cry. But at work, these people around me, I'm like... Anyway, lastly, I want to talk about why I think this show is underrated. Number one, I already said this, Disney didn't do a good job. They really didn't. I don't know what it is. And it may be because this show has more non-plot related episodes than, say, like the Owl House or something. But the fact that these two shows came out at the same time and got wildly different, like, reception for them is really interesting, because obviously with the fandom, now that I've seen the fandom now, like there's a lot of crossover between like Amphibia and the Owl House fandom, but like there's a big chunk of the Owl House fandom, me included, who knew nothing about Amphibia or like what it was. And it's weird where that like disconnect comes from. And obviously there's a bunch of theories on like why or like how or whatever. But I think one of the biggest ones is the fact that Amphibia overall has a lighter tone. Yes, despite the fact that Amphibia has that what True Colors is the name of the episode with the content warning. Despite all of that, I think overall Amphibia has a lot of a lighter tone, which could even be the reason why they even got that content warning in the first place. Because out of context, that seems really weird to happen on a like this type of show. Like if it were to happen in Gravity Falls or the Owl House, you'd be like, oh, okay, I was expecting that. Like balls to the walls, shit happens, right? But like with Amphibia, something that has been so lighthearted since the jump, it's really like, whoa, it's really a whoa moment. So that's probably why they got a content warning. I wonder if the Owl House would get a content warning. I don't know, because shit has been getting really wild on the Owl House. Maybe it'll get a content warning. Ooh, I'm not ready. Oh, I'm not ready, but we're not talking about that today. Amphibia, yeah, I think the overall tone was lighter and it was kept lighter. And I think there are pros and cons to both approaches, like having it start off light, like with the Owl House, and getting darker and darker and darker as time goes on, or with Amphibia, you know, keeping a light tone throughout all of it. I think it all has its pros and cons. I think Amphibia is more digestible within a short amount of time because of that. Like I said, I watched this within like, you know, less than a couple of months. So I think it was a lot more digestible and a lot more feel good, kind of huggy, you know, warm feeling inside, even with the ending. Whereas the Owl House is just like, try watching that all in one sitting. Jesus Christ, I couldn't imagine. I really couldn't imagine watching the Owl House in all in one sitting. Oh God. Anyway, yeah. So I think that actually holds true, especially with like the whole thing about Amphibia being frogs and stuff like that, and it keeping this like really cute and lighthearted overtone. And I think that doesn't detract at all from its message either. I actually think it offers a kind of unique take on it, on the whole child lost in another world type thing, because it stays really lighthearted and not super, well, there are obviously times in specific episodes where it's like, oh damn, that was really dark for no reason. But overall, it keeps its lightheartedness which I think would be hard to do had they not leaned into the amphibian world of Amphibia. Like, I think if all the characters were human or even like monsters, like in the Owl House or something, it would be really hard to like keep that super lighthearted tone without getting too, I don't know, gimmicky, kiddie, I don't know. But like the fact that like Amphibia is full of frogs and newts and toads, like it's easier, I feel like, for them to kind of keep that really lighthearted tone, and it works for them a lot. I think what the show does really well is showing us reasons to care about every single character. Literally every single character. You find some reason to like care about them. I think it does this honestly better than some others, the Owl House included. Like, one of the biggest like criticisms I have of the Owl House is that I didn't get more time. Well, there's 3 more episodes, but I won't get more time with a lot of the side characters that I love a lot that are kind of integral to the plot at this point. Like, I feel like we didn't get enough of them, but again, this is not about the Owl House. But I think that, like, conversely, Amphibia does a really good job at making you care about like every single character. And so much to the point where literally the final episode, you are bawling your eyes out because you care about these characters. You have learned to love it with these characters. You have grown with these characters. Even though it only took me roughly 3 months to finish roughly 3 years of content, this show changed me. And I love a show that can change you or just make you see a different perspective on life. And I don't know if this was just the universe or whatever, like right place, right time, but the themes and the like lessons that I took from this show applied to my real life like so easily. And so like, wow, damn, that like applies to me really well. And one of those is the idea of change. One of the biggest, like, I think themes in the show and lessons that they try to teach throughout the show is change, and how people change over time, and how your relationships might change over time, but that doesn't mean your relationships are gone. That doesn't mean that like you don't still have these people in your life and you don't hold them special to your life, even though you have grown as a person. Like, it is okay to grow as a person. And with that comes the understanding that you may not see the same people you see anymore, but like, that's okay. Your relationships will still be there. Your friendships will still be there. Like, nothing will ever change that. And I think also having a really good community as well to foster that change. Like, Ant's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Boonchoy, they were quite literally some of my favorite characters. Like, they are so, I think, realistically supportive of their child and everything that happened. And like, okay, a little bit of a spoiler. At the end of the show, in one of the last episodes, they're like, oh, one of the stakes is you may not be able to return home again. They have to save the world, whatever. You may not be able to return back to Earth again. And that broke my heart because, yeah, we don't get to see Sasha's parents or Marcy's parents or whatever. But Anne's parents have been, like, such a great, like, staple in this show. So to, like, hear that she may never get to see them again, like, broke my heart. Even it's like, it's a kid's show, like, okay, but still, it like really broke my heart. I was like, her parents have been waiting for her ass to come home for so long. They finally get her. She has to go back to go save the world, and it's like, I literally fucking broke my heart, bro. I was oh my god. Anyway, but it's because the characters were written so well. If the characters weren't written so well, or if they just kind of shoved the parents off to the side for a couple of one-off like things, I wouldn't have cared as much. I'd be like, oh, that sucks, but at least you got the planters, or like whatever. But it's the fact that like we got these characters. You care so much about these characters by the end of the show that you're just like yeah. But the lessons of change in community really, it's the hardest thing. That's the name of the last episode. And the hardest thing is change, and acknowledging change is coming, and acknowledging that you've changed and that it's okay to change and grow, but you will always still have the people around you to support you. And it's a little personal, but my life has the last like 8 months, which has been the entire year, it feels like every 2 weeks my life changes so drastically. Between graduating college, starting a new job, becoming a real adult, quote unquote, like so much changes every 2 weeks. And it just, this show is just what I needed. It's just what I needed. So once again, I say, SPRANNE against the world. Woof, thank you so much for watching, especially if you watched all the way to the end. You are a real one. Do I need to say anything else? If you haven't watched the show yet, please go watch the show. Please support the creators. I said this in my Owl House video too. Like, the biggest way to show that the show meant something to you, obviously, other than creating fan art, fan fiction, whatever, like, the way to show that the show meant a lot to you is to just go tell the creators, like, make a video like this. I don't know. Make a video. If you're not that type of person, literally just retweeting, following the creators, anything like that, like, showing that you care. Also, apparently, I know this works on Netflix because people were saying about the Rise movie, but if you go on to wherever you're watching it, like on Disney Plus for the show, and just like say like, oh, did you like or dislike the show? Apparently, if you say that you liked the show on the Disney Plus app, like, that shows them, like, that's a metric that they actually use to be like, oh, do people like this type of show? So do that. Do that with all of the cartoons you watch. Go support the actual creators on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. And support, like, just cartoons in general, because obviously the fact that Rebecca Sugar was in this show, like, and obviously there was a lot of, like, Owl House and Gravity Falls references. There was an entire episode that was a Gravity Falls reference. So please go, like, support all of them, because they all, like, support each other, so we should also be supporting them. Thank you. But thank you so much for watching until the end. Remember to do all the YouTube stuff down below, like commenting and subscribing. That would be great. If you want to reach me on my social medias, they're also linked down in the description, but Instagram and Tumblr are the two places that I post the most and where I am the most active, so go ahead and follow those if you want to come see what I'm up to. And yeah, give me more cartoons to watch, please. And other than that, I will see you in the next video. Peace.